Firstly, thank you to my speakers. Donna, we've travelled a journey, long before Thriving Survivors ever started. And if you told me then, in that room, that we would be here now, I would have just laughed at you. I would have laughed. Rachel, just my heart swells with pride when I see what you've achieved and how far you've come. Just as well I bought a good mascara. So the journey that Thriving Survivors has been on has been nothing short of remarkable. And to be at a point of 10 years, it sort of takes you into a reflective space, like look at everything that's been achieved. And I don't think I've did enough of that recently. And sometimes to this, it takes its toll. Running a charity is like on top. Add a layer of trauma to that, and it's even more intense. So to be here and to be in this space and allow for an opportunity of reflection, I thank you for your contribution, and I hope the next 10 years for you guys just continues to grow, no matter how inconvenient it happens to be. So we're here today to celebrate 10 years of impact and 10 years of success. And for that, we're going to host 10 events. If somebody had told me Thriving Survivors was born in my living room in Easterhouse, where I decided that everything that had happened to me, everything that happened to us, wouldn't be in vain. And I remember talking and saying, if this helps just one person, then at least something good has came for that. We're 3,500 people in, and to get to that point is just absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to stop being emotional. I'm going to skip past the accounts, and welcome everybody to 10 for 10. 10 years, 10 years, 10 questions, one future. So why 10 for 10? Can you just get to 10 years and then not celebrate it? So this is about 10 years of impact. This year is an opportunity for us to pause, and anybody that knows me knows that I don't pause. But it's an opportunity for us to really reflect on the work that's been done and the difference that's been made, the journeys that have been travelled, and more importantly, the 10 years that still lie ahead. Hopefully it's longer than 10, but the 10 years that lie ahead. Over the next 6 months, we will come together another 9 times to celebrate, to debate, and also to collaborate. So often in the third sector, and when everybody's in competition for funding, this year is about actually bringing all those organisations together where we're having fun, we're working together and collaborating, and we put the competition behind us, and we come together and we build something that truly makes a difference. So, there's a decade of impact, a year of reflection, and the future that ultimately will be shaped together. So in order to know where we're going, I think it's always important to reflect on where we've been. So in 2016, actually Brian's right, it started in 2015, and we were Thriving Survivors Training Foundation, and it was a company limited by shares. But I soon realised this was never a company limited by shares. This was never about making money. This was about changing lives and making impact. So in 2016, I faced my fear of open water and a fear of heights, and I flung myself 154 foot off the Titan crane on a bungee cord, I'll say that. And as soon as I landed with my 2 feet on the ground, I went straight to our very first achievement day, where we celebrated the journey of 5 women through our very first Discovering Me programme. Now that Discovering Me programme was my recovery. That was my stage 3. It was the tools that had managed to get me from being agoraphobic and unable to step over the door to actually being able to be in a room and stood up in front of so many people like this. So when I first met Brian back in 2015, I struggled to get over the door. Alison, I went through a journey at the entrepreneurial spark, and I had to be taken to that because I was still pretty ill at the time. And it's only now looking back that I suppose I realise how challenging that really was. And to have come on that journey is just phenomenal. 2016 seen me launch Thriving Survivors Limited. And this time I had set it up wrong again. I should have went with a charity. So it was Third Time Lucky in 2017, where we went through a 10-month process of becoming a registered charity. Finally, we were in the right space. Over the next couple of years, we spent many a dodgy day in the Tollcross Mansion house, which Heather quite rightly said was full of wasps. We had a ghost. It didn't have any heating. It's quite a dodgy place, actually. Anyway, so we were quite happy there for a number of years as we developed the Discovering Me programme. My vision for Thriving Survivors was always end to end. So I'd seen so often you get a bit of service here and you get a bit of service there, and maybe they join up, but often they don't. So my vision was always end to end. You came in at the point of crisis and we took you right the way through to a point where you were able to come back and work in this organisation. It was always end to end, and it was always supposed to be lived experience led. And that's what makes us truly different, because it isn't theory. We've walked that journey. Every single person that works here has walked a terrible journey, whatever that looks like, but they've turned it into power and they've turned that into purpose. So we trundled on a couple of years, and then we hit COVID. And that was the point where everything changed for us. We went for delivering groups in person and at stage 3 of somebody's recovery. And actually, this was the point where we really had to shift. We had to pivot to be able to meet the needs of people going through COVID. And that's where our lived experience mentoring service was born. And that was the start of us becoming end to end. So we now have a mentoring service at stage 1, we've got our counselling service at stage 2, and we've got our Discovering Me work that sits at stage 3. Now we've added to that, and we've built in our SQE accredited award, which essentially gives accredited training and accreditation for our lived experience mentors, and that offers hope. 2020, 2021. I remember being in a meeting, and I was the chair, and somebody happened to say we were discussing restorative justice as it was on the agenda. And somebody said that survivors should not have access to restorative justice if they had experienced sexual violence or domestic abuse. And well, anybody that knows me knows that I got right on top of my soapbox, and I decided that it wasn't really about restorative justice, it was about choice. Who are we as service providers to remove the choice of anybody? And that really was what put Thriving Survivors on the map nationally. We led a national consultation where we took it to the people, and we asked, rather than making decisions for people, we asked, what would they like? Would they like to access this? And if so, what would that need to look like? So that consultation ran, and then in 2022, we then launched Scotland's first restorative justice service for survivors of sexual violence. And that work has just been absolutely phenomenal. To see the impact that that has now is just grand. It's about repair and proper repair. 2023, we hosted our very first annual conference. And this entire organisation is founded on the foundations of Professor Judith Herman's 3-stage model of recovery. That model is everything to us. But for me, it was a proper fangirl moment as Judith Herman keynoted my very first conference. It's like the stuff that dreams were made of. I remember sitting on an online chat with her, and I was like, I'm actually in a meeting with Judith Herman, having a conversation one-on-one, and it's like, wow. And she described me at that point as a living illustration of her work. And she's right. But I see that in so many people now, that model that actually works, and the difference that makes to people's lives. 2024 seen us host the world's first dedicated sibling sexual abuse conference in Glasgow Trades Hall. And again, another absolute pinnacle moment in terms of the work that we deliver. But I think the biggest thing, and this is where 10 years of reflection brings me to, over 3,500 people have been supported and over £2 million in funds raised. And that's just... because that walks on to our kids, it does, our family, our neighbours. That's right. The ripple effect. Every single day. That's lived experience, and that's the power of that. Is if we can share that voice, then we transform systems, we transform services, and that's how it should be. So that's the journey. That's how we got to where we're at now. So when I started thinking about how do we celebrate 10 years and how do we do it in Ashley fashion, so I decided we're not just having one event, we're having 10. But I also felt the theme of 10 really did run through everything. So we have got 10 key questions that we are going to pose across all of our events. And that'll start right here in this room today. So we split this into 4 key themes. We've got safety and well-being, exploring the critical community issues. What's the human impact here? Then we've got systems and practice. This is where we start to look at the key systemic issues, that the challenges that we face. This is where real systems change lies. Justice and health. This is where we start to explore the questions that still need answered, because we've still not managed to get to a point of resolution. And then influence and collaboration. This is about how we shape futures and how we do that through the power of shared voices. So that's our core 4 themes. First up, safety and well-being. We're going to look at men's mental health. It's something that we don't discuss often enough, but something that we are seeing to be much, much more prevalent in today's society. So what gets in the way of men asking for support, and what would make that easier? I'm not looking for answers right now. All right. Next up is women's safety. It's 10 years on, and still, sometimes I don't feel safe when I walk down our streets. So we're asking the question, what does feeling safe actually look like for women in communities right now? And again, that still needs to change, because there is still change that's needed. Next up, it's systems and practice. So systems and services, when people reach out for help, what supports them best? And more importantly, what gets in the way? Trauma-informed practice. I hear people talk about this and say they're trauma-informed, and still I feel like we've got an awful, awful long way to go. So where are we seeing trauma-informed approaches making a difference? And where are we still falling short? There's been a substantial investment into trauma-informed practice across Scotland. We are going to unpick that over the next 8 months. Next up's lived experience. Now, anybody that knows me knows that this is where my heart really, really lies. Still, sometimes even in my position now, I get the feeling that you've just got lived experience. Well, that's not true. I've got lived experience, but I've built that into a career and a cause, a passion for making a difference. This is how we change systems and services. So how can lived experience shape systems, services, and decisions? That's the important bit. It's like we let people have a voice, but then how are we embedding that? How are we using that voice to truly make a difference? And how can we do so in a meaningful and sustainable way? Justice and health. Restorative justice. I really had to temper my question here, because this is probably one of the most debated and controversial pieces of work that we've undertaken as an organisation. But what would fair, safe and empowering restorative options look like for survivors of harm? And that's a question that I posed back in 2021, and it's still a question that I believe we've not found a resolution for, hence why it's one of our key 10 that we'll look at over the next few months. Health inequalities. How do experiences within health settings impact people's ability to seek and stay engaged with support? And again, this is something that's been on the agenda for a long time, and still we've got no answers for this. So we aim to shine a light on that over as we go through this process. Next up is influence and collaboration. Somebody, so I don't know, is Carla in the room? Carla's not here. So as part of this project, we will be building a jigsaw. Every event will have a jigsaw piece. And over the course of the 10 events, we'll eventually have a beautiful big wooden jigsaw that pulls together all these key themes. Because no one organisation can do it alone. And that's, well, staff gave it a mighty fine attempt. I recognise that actually in order for us to make this work, we need to work together so as that survivors and people with lived experience don't fall through the gaps. So how well our lived experience voices shaping policy, practice, and public understanding, and how can we strengthen that is going to be one of our key questions. Sibling sexual abuse. This is a subject that's close to my heart. And I suppose a service I never ever thought we would set up as we went through things. And it was almost the service that made me take to my feet and run right out the door. However, I stuck through it. And what a difference that's made, because we've shone a light on a subject that hides in the shadows. And that's transformation right there, where people can look into an organisation and see themselves. And I think that's important. So how can we talk about sibling sexual abuse in ways that raise awareness and reduce shame? Because even just saying it, people instantly feel shame. We want to challenge that, and we hope that people take that coat of shame off and hand it back to where it should be. Partnerships and collaboration. So what does meaningful collaboration look like between organisations, and how does that ultimately support survivors better? So these are our 10 key questions that we're going to pose across the next 8 months, maybe less than 8 now, but 6-8 months. And we are going to pose this to many a different audience. So we'll pose it to you guys here today, but then we're going to host these 10 events. So, then and now, this is today's event. This is our launch event where we've captured the voices of the past, the voices before we were even born, and some of the voices that shape the Scottish landscape now. So, then and now is our first event. Next up, we're looking to create and connect. So this is about our survivors. This is about the people that we support, the people that you support, coming together to create. But this is the first place where we're going to pose these 10 questions, where we'll have a roundtable discussion and we'll get the voices of survivors to answer this, to answer these questions, to give their perspective. Then we're going to host a roundtable event in this office, where we'll bring together members of the public. This is an open event where anybody can come and attend. And we're really looking to gather the views and the perspectives of the general public and the people that are working with the general public. Next up is community connections, community conversations. So this is where we'll look to bring together funders, local authority leaders, policymakers, and third sector organisations. And we'll look at the same 10 questions and again get a very different perspective. And I'm sure the perspectives will be different across every single event. Then we've got our policy and practice symposium. And this is where we're hoping to get the voices of our politicians, the people that lead this country and the people that can truly actually make change happen. We'll pose the same 10 questions at each of these events. Ultimately, the aim is to go to that policy and practice symposium where we start to talk through, well, okay, this is what these voices are saying. How do we then make change? How do we take the voices and really transform them into something else? Next up is probably the most important day that we will host. This is about our staff, our volunteers, our board members who are totally committed to the organisation's cause. And this will really be a day of celebrating them. No need to answer the 10 questions because they'll have answered them all well in advance of that event. So that's really just about the guys and making sure that they know how much we value them and we know how much this work would not be possible if it was not for them. Then we've got our Survivor podcast. So we will have 10 episodes, which of course will feature each question. So one question per episode, 10 voices, 10 different perspectives, and 10 voices for change. Then we'll have our launch of our SQA. As I mentioned earlier, this piece of work has been 2 years in the making, and we'll look to launch this accredited training programme across Scotland, looking at trauma-informed mentoring, restorative justice, and also sibling sexual abuse, and responding to that understanding and response. Then we've got goals for good. This is a crazy project. Goals for Good. It's already coming together, smashing. So we'll host a family fun day where we're looking for another 15 organisations across Scotland to submit teams. And this is where we come together, and instead of competing for funding, we're going to come together, collaborate, and raise as much money as we can, as it's then split equally between the 16 teams who are involved. This is about the collaboration that we as an organisation think is absolutely imperative to how we move forward and how we build a better future. And then it's just about a party, really. So the charity ball is where we'll present and publish our 10 years report. 10 years, 10 questions on future. And the award ceremony for the football, whoever wins that tournament. So 10 events for us to really explore the breadth and the depth of work that we do, and to celebrate the people that make it happen, the people that make it work, and more importantly, the people that we support who are at the heart of absolutely everything that we do. I don't know why I wrote these notes in the first place. This is a bit of lump. Okay, I know, that was better when I wing it. So, One Future. This is your opportunity to get involved and to answer these 10 questions. The QR code will take you straight to a Microsoft forum. Please take a copy, take the time, add your voice to this project. We want to hear from you, whether you're a survivor, whether you're a funder, whether you're members of the staff team, like whoever you are, we want your perspective on these questions. Thriving Survivors exists because people believed that change was possible. Brian, if it wasn't for you that day in my handwritten application form, trying to get it into 500 characters, I believe, we simply would not be where we are now. I'll never forget coming in and meeting you, and you gave me everything that I needed to be able to keep going. We exist because survivors trusted us, still trust us, because our staff showed up with compassion and empathy and understanding that you cannot read in a book. Because volunteers showed up and gave their time and saved us when we never had any wax for the candle making. And because partners supported the vision. And more importantly, because the funders invested in the work. We've built a community that leads with courage, authenticity, and more than anything, it leads with heart. And that's what the first 10 years have represented. And this is right now, this is the start of the next 10 years. So I encourage everybody to get involved. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your contributions and your efforts. And just thank you for being here and supporting us through this journey. Yeah, I'm done.